Hello, it's Dave here. I'm back again with my wife, Cathy.
Hello.
And we're doing another cinema. We're on the way to Kong, Skull Island, which has been out for a few weeks, but it's a Sunday afternoon and we don't want to go to Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah, basically. I don't want to go to this either, but this has better reviews, so...
Yeah. And it looks a lot more fun, to be honest. The marketing in this has been incredible. I don't think it couldn't quite live up to that, but I've loved every poster they've produced. The trailers have been really good fun. I
think it looks really boring. I think King Kong's boring, and I think Brie Larson's too good for it. And I kind of over Tom Hiddleston.
Okay, well, I'll agree. They didn't do much with Brie Larson in the trailers, considering she's an Academy Award winning
I know, I'm like, you went
actress.
from Room to this. But look, we'll judge her by the movie. But yeah, so I just think it's like, it's not interesting doing King Kong. Like I feel like I've seen 100 King Kong movies. I probably haven't.
You've probably seen one.
Yeah.
Which was the 2005
so
Peter Jackson
unoriginal.
one.
So look, we'll see. Dave's lucky because it's a Sunday afternoon. I've agreed to go. If it was after work,
yeah, I'm up for
tired,
just a fun monster movie.
Yeah.
We should say we have a bit of news which we're very excited about. We've been nominated for Best New Podcast in the British Podcast Awards, which we're
super excited,
so chuffed about,
and very surprised.
Well, quite
we're
surprised.
Up against much better podcasts than
well,
ours.
basically, yeah. So the other podcasts in the category are Everyone Else, Say Why to Drugs, Soundtracking with Edith Bowman, and The Untold, which is a BBC 4 podcast. And I just flew in back from Ireland this weekend, and I spent the plane listening to all of these podcasts and thinking, what are we doing here? I very much feel like the odd one out. Like they've made a mistake. I'm waiting for them to sort of submit an omission, like a correction.
I was thinking that too, because we got the nomination separately because Dave was in Ireland and I was here, and we phoned each other and we were like, huh? Is this real life?
It's like, is there another Cinemile that maybe, is a bit more...
But they did tag us on Twitter, so
professional podcast.
We knew it was us because they tagged our Twitter account.
Yes.
So you were excited. There's going to be an awards at the end of April where we'll get to go and check out all these people that we idolise and think are amazing.
Yeah, I mean, Edith Bowman, we've been listening to for years.
Yeah.
Mark Kermode and Simon Mayo are nominated. I'd love to meet them.
Adam Buxton, we love him.
Adam Buxton, Scroobius Pip. Some real big podcast heavy hitters. So just to be even in the same room as them is very, very
Basically,
exciting.
we'll be those really annoying people who run around all night getting selfies with everyone and annoying everyone.
Yep. But we are genuinely super, super excited, and thank you to all of our listeners for listening and for all your support. Really, because this is just us wandering down the street holding a recorder and talking the usual shite we normally talk. But we are at the cinema now, so I'm going to stop that shiting on that I've
Yes, and I'm expecting in 2 hours, because it's 2 hours long, which I'm not happy about, when we get out of this movie, I'll have not liked it and you'll have liked it.
Well, so you're going in with a negative attitude.
No, I'm just going in with an assumption.
Okay. Well, it could flip it,
And I do like Brie Larson, but from the trailer, I'm not happy with how they've used her, so we'll see.
Okay. A waste of Brie.
Yeah, and I just think Tom Hiddleston, no offence, but I'm so over him.
He's a little bit overexposed, isn't he? Because of that whole night manager thing, which was quite overrated, really.
And I don't really like him in the Marvel movies. I liked him in The Night Manager.
Oh, come on, he was great as Loki.
Meh.
You're giving Loki a meh.
Well, I'm like, she's an Oscar. She just won Best Actress, so she better get more screen time than him.
Well,
and
only
he's Taylor
time
Swift's ex-boyfriend.
We'll tell. I was wondering when Hiddle Swift would rear its ugly
All right,
head.
okay, we're at the cinema.
All right, see you on the other side.
These are photos of an island in the South Pacific.
The place where myth and science meet.
We use explosives to shake the earth, helping us to map the surface of the island.
You're dropping bombs. Scientific instruments.
Is that a monkey?
Magnificent.
You knew that thing was out here?
I'm sorry for your men, Colonel. But if you want to make their sacrifice worthwhile, hit us home with proof. Monsters exist.
Okay, so we're out of Kong Skull Island. We're not walking home. We've decided to sit down by the river. There goes a basketball. You want your ball back?
I haven't.
You have it. Good. Okay.
Because it's a really nice day.
It's a lovely
Sunny.
day. It's beautiful.
The river's really busy.
Spring is out.
So pardon the ambient noise.
Yes, there's a lot of activity happening around here. So that was a very eventful cinema trip. Probably the worst behaved cinema audience I've ever experienced.
You're burying the lead here. On our way out of the cinema,
Oh, yeah.
we saw Anna Faris and Chris Pratt and their kid buying tickets to the movies. Now, bearing in mind, this is one of the worst cinemas we've ever been in. Like, it's horrible, dirty. There's never any toilet paper in it. The toilets weren't flushing, actually, when I went along. So, to see, two millionaires in the foyer was quite funny. And he had a basketball cap on and his sunglasses, but we knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was quite clearly
Quite
him.
clearly him.
He's a
'cause
big
so
guy.
enormous. And it's funny because a week ago, my favourite cafe had posted a picture of Anna Faris saying that she had called in. So they must actually be like living here for a movie or something. But I wish we'd sat next to them in the cinema instead of the stupid, annoying people we sat next to.
All right, let's list them off. Okay,
Worst
so
behaved cinema ever.
firstly, we had behind us was an entire row of
No, it was
10-year-old boys.
It was actually 2 rows of them.
Two
Yeah, I
rows
saw when we left.
of 10-year-old boys, who
Really little boys, like really young.
were they 10 maybe 8
Yeah.
or 9?
I don't know what age they were.
They were about the age of that kid who just kicked a ball at us.
Yeah, but he was
Um,
much more polite.
Jesus, they just would not shut up. Like
I actually
from
shushed
the
them
off.
and told them to be quiet, and the whole cinema was doing it.
Yeah.
But there was a mother with them.
Really?
Yeah, because at the
Oh, come on.
end. So as I turned myself around shushing them, thinking, do you know what? Like, theoretically, I actually don't mind it, because I know when I was that age, I went and carried on like that in the cinema too. But it's just really annoying. Anyway, I kind of tuned them out, but then the guy to my right started playing air guitar and air drums, and this is like a 40-year-old guy. He
So-
was playing air band because there was all these 70s music kicking in. And then he proceeded to just talk, so eventually we just sat down the front.
At louder than room volume.
Yeah,
But did you notice what he was saying to the girl who was with him?
No, I wasn't listening.
So anytime, because this movie is littered with really classic 70s rock tracks, which are commonly featured in Vietnam movies. There's a lot of Creedence Clearwater
A lot of
Revival in there.
generic 70s music.
Oh, come on, yeah, but really, really great tracks.
Ah, yeah, but exactly what you'd expect for a movie about the Vietnam War, the soundtrack.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
But they're great tracks.
Yeah, they are
really,
good
really
tracks.
good. But what he was doing was anytime one of those tracks would come on, he'd turn to his girlfriend and loudly announce the name of the track and the artist, and then
Play air guitar.
Start
I'm like,
doing air guitar.
get your air guitar out of
and
my face.
And then he was doing anytime the drums were about to kick in, he'd go yeah. I was like, oh, hello.
But anyway, so we moved seats, and then the rest of the cinema was still really loud, but not so bad. But to be fair, it was 2:00 on a Sunday afternoon, and it's a family movie, so
No, it's not, to be fair. There's no excuse for this kind of behaviour. 2 phones went off during the cinema, and one of them went off for the entirety of the ring. Like, the person didn't even bother dealing with it. Another one was on silent but was buzzing loudly. Did you hear it?
yeah, I did.
was a
But anyway,
Fucking disaster. I'm sorry. People were so badly behaved.
but Tim,
and then
it's a family movie on a Sunday afternoon.
no, but even Cathy, it wasn't even the kids that were the worst of it. The adults somehow thought there was adults all over the screen talking to each other.
Yeah,
And I know we whisper to each other occasionally, but
yeah, but there's whispering
Come on.
and there's talking, and people were not whispering in that movie. But anyway, I don't care because we saw Chris Pratt and Anna Faris afterwards, and that was amazing.
that made it all worthwhile
Yeah.
for you. I suppose we should probably talk about the movie.
We should talk about the movie. Do you know what was better than I thought? Better than I was expecting.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was
Um,
fine.
Let's give a quick rundown of what it is. So the story is John Goodman is part of a top secret organization who look for monsters, basically, which I've just read were also in the Godzilla movie. So we should say this Kong movie is going to be part of a shared universe, a shared cinematic universe with Godzilla and a lot of other monsters, because that's the done thing now ever since Marvel made it commonplace, and so DC are doing it. You've got
Was Chris Pratt going to see that
monster
movie?
movies.
What was he going to see?
Can we get off Chris Pratt?
Sorry, yeah, I'm just curious.
I'd say he was going to go see. Well, they had their son with them.
I'd say
Maybe
they were going to
Beauty
see
and the
that.
Beast,
No, because that was in the other screen. I reckon they were going to see that King Kong.
King Kong. Okay, but so basically, John Goodman wants to go find monsters, recruits a crack team of people to go to this island. They arrive there, loads of monsters. It's just a big fun monster B movie, basically.
Yeah, and it was what I found interesting about it was, first of all, usually movies set in the 70s have a look of the 70s about them. This could have been set now. There was no sense of it being a 70s movie, and I don't mean that as a criticism, it's just an observation. For some reason, when things are set in the 70s, they're always duller colours and a bit grainy, and people are almost trying to replicate the actual film of the 70s. So I thought that was interesting, and I thought it was really interesting the stuff around the Vietnam soldiers and their internal politics, because obviously now we know, and obviously it all was coming to light at the time, like how atrociously a lot of American soldiers did act in the Vietnam War, and things like the My Lai massacre and all that. There was a lot going on there that was, people just following orders, really terrible orders, and it was really vile. So it's interesting to have people from that background thrown into this, where ultimately there's a face-off between Samuel L. Jackson, who's running the soldiers, who wants to kill Kong, and there's the scientists and the Tom Hiddleston and the Brie Larson who want to, not kill Kong and just get out of there. And I thought that was really interesting because Samuel L. Jackson's really great anyway at that kind of role, but it was really interesting watching the soldiers following orders despite the fact that they really didn't want to be. But I thought it made sense in the context of the Vietnam War, whereas in a different movie I might have been like, there's no way they'd do what this guy's asking them to do because it's ridiculous. But I felt like historically it made sense.
I think I disagree with your point that this movie didn't look 70s. Maybe it didn't look like it definitely had a very distinctive Vietnam flavour to it. It was evoking a lot of Apocalypse Now with the boat down the river.
It was very derivative of those movies.
What's the Full Metal Jacket? There's a very distinct shot where they focus on one of the helmets and it says Born to Breed. There's a lot of little Easter eggs in there. In fact, one of my favourite Easter eggs was Samuel L. Jackson repeats his line from Jurassic Park, which was "Hold on to your butts."
Oh, I didn't get that.
Which I really enjoyed because that's one of my favourite lines.
And it's such a good cast. I mean, you have Samuel L. Jackson, who's amazing. John Goodman, who I had forgotten was in it, I think.
A very thin John Goodman.
Very thin, yeah. Brie Larson was obviously really good. Tom Hiddleston was really good. Who else was in it? Richard, what's that guy? I really like him. He was in at the very start.
Richard Linklater. No, he's the director. Oh God, we're bumbling this.
Yeah,
one.
Anyway,
Richard
Jenkins. He's like, as
Quick
soon as I see
cameo.
him in a movie, I go, oh wow, okay, that's good. Like, he's a real different caliber of an actor. And
John C. Reilly was great.
John C. Reilly, like all the supporting cast was really good, including the guy from Me, Earl and the Dying Girl playing a young soldier.
Yeah, it's a really nice little surprising sort of character actor here.
Yeah.
The guy from Boardwalk Empire who plays Steve Buscemi's brother, whose name I forget, is always good in this.
So yeah, it was a good cast. It was a solid movie. Visually looked great. Kong looked amazing.
He did. He really did.
Yeah.
With the cast though, the cast elevated what were really cardboard characters.
Yeah, the cast made it. But I thought, to be fair to the filmmaker, whoever it is, they made a distinct effort to actually give people personalities, and they didn't have Brie Larson in a traditional weak female role. And they didn't have Tom Hiddleston being a ridiculous, over-the-top action hero. If anything, he was almost too understated. Like, I didn't really buy him as a guide.
He was a little bit.
I'm like, what? You went to Eton and now you're a guide in the Southeast Asian jungle.
He was a little ridiculous from the start.
But it's not his fault. Like, I just don't think he was the right casting. I think he's good at whatever he does. But
he was basically, he's the guy from Jurassic Park who goes, "Clever girl." He's that guy.
It didn't make sense to me. I'm like, so you're like an expert tracker of Southeast Asian jungles.
Yeah.
And you're like a posh British guy. Like, it just didn't make... And you're young, you know. It's not like he's been there 30 years and he's learned it the hard way. Like, when did you learn these skills exactly?
He didn't really do any
between
tracking.
Your gym sessions. He did one bit of tracking where he saw mushrooms and said, I think there's a river nearby. And
Yeah,
I was like,
job.
I could have fucking guessed that.
Good job, Hiddlehunk.
Yeah, but she was good. I really liked her photography stuff, and I liked how they framed... It was the most 70s stuff was when we saw stuff through her camera lens.
Yeah.
That felt like 70s. I thought the music was really badly done. I know they used good songs, but there would just be no music and nothing going on, and suddenly the music would just blare on screen, and it just felt really ham-fisted in and really try-hard to me. Not in the least because someone next to me was playing air guitar along with it. But just anyway, I just
guy
felt
made it.
there was nothing about the score, the soundtrack that was interesting. There was just okay, great, yeah, you've got some good 70s like you're playing Bowie, but it's not.
I disagree.
I just
also,
didn't
there
buy
was
it.
no Bowie.
There was.
What? When? What Bowie track?
When John C. Reilly's like, what's this music?
Was that? I don't think so. Let's talk about.
Okay, fine, let's go and check it. And even if I'm wrong, you don't need to be such a dick about it.
I am being a dick.
But yeah, no, I thought it was fine overall. At one point, I was a bit sleepy and thought I could do with a nap. And then I thought, no, actually, I do want to see how this ends.
It was a really gorgeous movie. The
bits of it were like the sunset and Kong and all the silhouette stuff was nice.
It's very orange. The explosions and sunsets. The CG was terrific. The fight scenes were excellent.
I love all the other creatures. I didn't realise there was anyone more than just Kong in it, so it was really cool to see that giant spider creature.
That was excellent.
The tree creature, the kind of giant...
The skull crawlers, as John C. Reilly calls them.
Yeah, and I liked all the stuff about the fact that actually humans are on the island and they're surviving all this.
I know I keep mentioning Jurassic Park, but it really did remind me of it. It's very much like that. It's a group
it's in that
it's a group
vein.
of humans trying to survive on an island full of sort of mythical creatures.
I just don't think it's a classic though. Like to me it's completely forgettable, and I don't quite know. I know why it was made. It was made because they want to make a wider universe of Godzilla and Kong, but ultimately I was like, this movie has nothing new to say and nothing particularly entertaining. Like the fact that how much the kids in that audience were talking was showing it was not like there were no kids talking when we went to see Jurassic Park or Jurassic World, whatever the last one was.
Yeah, I agree. It was a very gorgeous looking movie, but it's nothing we haven't seen before.
And
it's
I don't
a
think
B-movie.
It knew what it wanted to be. Like it wants to be Apocalypse Now 1 minute, it wants to be Jurassic Park the next minute, it wants to be. It's just no. Like, what are you? And I don't believe that everything has to fit into a genre, but
it's a B-movie with a grade A cast and grade A packaging. But at its core, it's just a silly monster movie. But it executed that perfectly well.
Yeah, it did execute it well.
There wasn't
and it was
really-
interesting, the man versus, man trying to tame nature, and ultimately, it made no sense, but it only made sense in the context that they were soldiers. It's like, why do you keep shooting at something that will just keep killing you? Stop shooting King Kong. It doesn't work.
But that's like the best sci-fi and monster movies, because the real monster turns out to be human.
And I mean, I think Samuel L. Jackson was brilliant in it. I thought he was really brilliant. Like, he was just perfect casting. Like, at the very start, like, this isn't a spoiler, it's practically in the opening scene. We see the Vietnam War is over and Samuel L. Jackson is not happy because he's like, we didn't lose this war.
We abandoned
it. And all the guys are so psyched to be going home when they're finished, and then they get offered this last mission and Samuel L. Jackson takes it, which he doesn't need to because he's actually been discharged, but he's just a warmonger and he loves fighting. And he takes all these men to their death.
How much fun was that scene with Kong versus the helicopters at the very beginning?
No, I thought that was really boring.
You don't really like action scenes.
Well,
do
I
you?
just thought it was too soon for me. I was like, I'm barely settled into the movie, and all this action's happening. And it's interesting because they had all the action and then all the quietness afterwards, but I wasn't engaged at that point, and it looked really fake. That was probably the worst CGI of the movie. At one point, one guy was hanging out of a helicopter and he fell into Kong's mouth. And I don't know if it's maybe because we only saw it in 2D and it might have been designed for 3D, but...
This feels like it would have been a lot better in 3D. But I disagree. I think the action looked incredible. It was really, really well choreographed. There's a scene where Kong... This isn't really a spoiler, but this is a nice little moment. Kong, grabs a tree and then swings it against one of the guys on the ground, and then he goes flying into another helicopter.
Yeah,
and
that stuff was
and then you
interesting.
see him hit the windshield, and then the body slowly sort of goes up towards the rotor, and then you just hear the rotor failing, and then they go down. It was just
I thought the ground...
really well
It was the opposite of
put
most
together.
movies for me, in that the action at the end was better than the action at the start, because the action at the start was just out of nowhere and I wasn't ready for it, but they really built up to the on the ground, real kind of war action.
Yeah.
And they were using, napalm and all these Vietnamese things, Vietnam War things. So actually, for me, again, the setting of the war made it more engaging because it wasn't pure fantasy. It felt a bit grounded.
Should we mention the last time we saw King Kong, which I think it was 2005, Peter Jackson's 3.5 hour bore of a movie, which I thought was just complete nonsense.
I can't remember it.
Well, it was very much a remake of the old.
All I know was
whatever it
I definitely would have fallen asleep during it, knowing myself.
Yeah, I don't think we didn't know each other then, but I
Yeah.
thought it was completely overlong, overwrought, a bit too. What's the word? It was obsessed with the previous movie. And it just
just a
didn't
giant
need
homage.
didn't need that length.
And, well, Peter Jackson has got a problem with length, judging by the Hobbit movies. But there, I felt like I had some vague memory of that movie where he picks up Naomi Watts in his hand, and in this one he picked Brie Larson up in his hand. I think there was some tie-in.
Yeah, there was
with
a
the
bit
female
of a callback
character.
there.
Yeah. But yeah, ultimately I thought, it's a decent blockbuster. I'd recommend someone see it if they're in the mood for.
I thought it was a great blockbuster.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not. It doesn't really elevate itself because there wasn't anything particularly sharp about the writing. A lot of the dialogue was corny.
And there's nothing original about it.
No, and it's very paint by numbers. Like assemble the team, get to the place, get to the evac point. You can almost like follow the map. You could draw the dotted lines together.
It must have been very expensive to make. Like, never mind the cast, all the special effects.
I thought it looked the business,
Yeah,
and
it
I will
looks
say
good.
as I mentioned earlier, the marketing for this movie has just been phenomenal, top notch. It's just gorgeous. There's one poster in particular, the Japanese style monster movie poster, which was excellent. The posters all around the tube with that shot of Kong against the sunset, and then all the helicopters are flying up against him. Oh, it's just stunning.
Yeah, but ultimately, yeah, I did enjoy it, and that's it. I've nothing else to say about it.
You've instantly forgotten about it.
Yeah, it's fine. I would have probably liked to see it in 3D because there was a lot of really cool stuff happening that I thought, this would be amazing in 3D.
Yeah. Are you going to go see Godzilla vs. King Kong in 2020?
No.
Do you give a shit?
I would never go.
Do you want to?
No, to be fair, I go and see movies that I wouldn't because of the podcast like this. I wouldn't have gone if we weren't doing a podcast.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap this up.
Yeah, it was fun. It was bonkers by the end. It was quite enjoyable, really. And the very end, we're not doing a spoiler section for this, by the way, because there's not much to say. But the very end, kind of, not post-credit scene, like as the credits start rolling, it was a really sweet scene, and I did cry at that. That got me more emotionally than the rest of the movie.
That was quite nice.
Yeah. I mean, as well, when you have John C. Reilly in something, like, he's just great.
John C. Reilly was excellent.
Yeah.
His character was probably one of my favourites in the movie, and he's one of the few who had sort of a bit of an emotional stake to it.
I did feel invested in his character. To be fair, I did feel invested in not the army guys' characters, but all the rest of them. I genuinely felt like, they were fleshed out enough that I was interested enough to see what would happen to them. Because at one point I did contemplate falling asleep, and then I resisted.
You contemplated it?
Yeah, I just thought, I could do with a nap.
What if I just fell asleep?
Yeah, I was thinking that, and then I thought,
is that when you
terrible.
put your head on my shoulder?
Yeah, and then I said no.
I thought you might have been
Stop
nodding
myself.
off then. You wouldn't have been able to because someone was having a full-blown conversation behind us in front of the man playing air guitar, and the row of teenagers saying it was sick.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Can we hear? I hope you can hear the sax guy down there because he's brilliant.
Yeah, and we didn't have any. Dave's just flown back from Ireland, and I had no change, so Dave gave him euro, which he didn't look too happy about.
I asked him, did he take euro, which was a stupid question because he said it was better than nothing.
I thought that was really ungrateful, though.
You can't actually go into the foreign exchange with €2.50, which is what I gave him.
Yeah, well, maybe he'll go to Europe someday and be glad of it.
Go to Europe,
or he can give it to charity.
Not with the way Britain's going.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, actually, €2 worth about £10 now.
Yeah, I got such a bad rate going over.
Anyway, come on, let's get off.
All right.
Bye.
If you like what we just said and would like to hear more of what we said, but in text format and in 140 characters or less, we have a Twitter page. It's at The Cinemile, or we have a website, thecinemile.com, but that's probably no good to you because it's just got all our episodes listed there. But subscribe to us. Go to iTunes and leave us a review if you know how to do that, because that's really, really helpful. And it's been fun. Do you have anything else to say?
No. Bye.
You look at me like Cathy's already on her phone. Like, why are you still talking?
Yeah, why are you
Dave?
still talking?
All right, let's finish it on a track, and let's do some air guitar while we're doing it.
Okay.
Ready?
No. Come on, let's go.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Hello, Dave here. I hate to say this, but Cathy was absolutely right. My bad. Bowie was on the soundtrack. But let's not finish this on an apology. Let's put in that brilliant Simpsons episode where Homer is King Kong.
Hey, I heard we're going to Ape Island.
Yeah, to capture a giant ape. I wish we were going to Candy Apple Island.
Candy Apple Island? What do they got there?
Apes, but they're not so big.